Hi, Sandy.
Hi, it's Dave.
Hi, it's Kirk.
Welcome to the A.D.K channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Metal to the Masses 2023 out of Hitchin. We're going to go through all the acts that are playing, or all the acts as far as we know that are playing. I think there was still some acts to be confirmed, and discuss which bands that we've heard of, bands that we haven't heard of. We'll try and find out a bit more information about them to share with you. They'll come up on the screen as well, so we'll have some information about each of the bands coming up. And at the end of it, each one of us is going to give our prediction of who we think out of this list we think potentially could win it. We're not saying that we definitely will, because we're not judges. Or, well, I'm not a judge. Kirk's not a judge. I think, Andy, you are judging once.
Yeah, I'm down for a heat. I don't know which one.
You're down for a heat. So, but what we're going to do is we're going to take you through the Metal to the Masses format. So Metal to the Masses, for anyone that doesn't really know, but although if you're watching this, you're bound to know what Metal to the Masses is, but it is a competition, a nationwide competition from around the UK, where each of the regions does heats of bands who compete to win a spot to play at the Bloodstock Festival in, is it June, July time? I think it's July. Some point in the summer,
August,
basically.
isn't it? Bloodstock?
Huh?
Bloodstock's middle of August, I think. Usually.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Never been. So it's a chance to play it. So this is what's going on, and it's happening all over the country at the moment. So Hitchin is one of the last regions to actually start, I believe. Most of the other regions half the regions are all at quarterfinal stages or something at the moment. They start like Christmas time. But anyway, for those that need to know, so it's up to 32 bands will be competing over a period from starting in March, and it will end in June, I believe, is when the final takes place. There'll be 4 competing bands as a general rule every single night, plus a headline act. All heat and quarters finals will be judged based on a 50% audience vote and a 50% judge vote. 2 bands from each heat will go through to the quarterfinals, and then obviously to the semi-finals. I'm going to put this out to. I've spoken to a lot of bands. I've spoken to people that talk about it, and some people are just going to do the Metal to the Masses because it's another gig, isn't it? And I've also heard from some people that will never do Metal to the Masses because they think of it as pay to play. Oh, we have to bring loads of people down, so it's not worth it. And my challenge to any band out there: when you're playing a gig, the idea is to get as many people to your gigs as possible. So why not support your local venue and do it at Metal to the Masses, where you have a chance to then go on to play Bloodstock? Surely that's the thing about playing in a band, is to play in front of people. So turning up and playing to no one that you know, there's a question. Either you're a crap band and no one likes you, or you've done bugger all and no one likes you. So sort your thing, pull your fingers out your backside, and if you're in a Metal to the Masses, make sure you're supporting the venue and you get your friends, get your families, and here's an idea: promote your band and maybe you'll get some fans there. Right, anyway, that was my first rant of the day. So there is a reason why I'm ranting right now about this, about bands, because I'm going to get to that. But right, 2 bands from each quarterfinal will then go through the June semi-finals. The semi-finals voting will be 70% judges and 30% audience votes. From the semi-finals, we'll then go through to the final. So 2 bands from each of the semi-finals will go to the grand final on the 24th of June. The grand final voting is 100% judge votes. Now, I believe the judge is actually only made up of Simon from Bloodstock. So he picks his votes. It's not made up of other judges. The rules are set out by Bloodstock. So every single heat by every single area in the country are doing exactly the same. There are slightly different ways about how they're doing the scoring as far as the votes. So some people are doing, you can buy tickets to get an extra vote and stuff like that on the venue. But again, this was London. So basically it was a free entry. So you didn't have to buy a ticket. You could just turn up and go to a gig for free and you got a vote. But if you bought a ticket, you could have a second vote by buying a ticket. So basically same principle as pay to play in that sense, but and it works. The fact is, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's at the final, it doesn't matter how many people are through the door, it's the judge that's going to have the final say. So it's only works so far along, but surely you want to have as many people there to enjoy the gig. Now there is a case about the judging. So At any point, if they believe that the judges have are being biased, there is a right reserved by the organisers at the venue to override the judge's decision. So if 2 judges, for instance, have given a band an 8 out of 10, that someone else gives them a 0 out of 10, they can be overridden if they believe that there is a biased decision, but they must be able to have a reason to justify it, i.e. they're friends with the band, they've got a personal vendetta against someone in the band, etc. And that will be made by the organisers on the night. And the most important one is feedback will be available for all bands, but they must ask for it after the gig. So after that heats take place, not on the night, but the next day, they just need to send an email or a message over to them saying, can we get feedback back on our show? And it will be available, but it's not automatically being done. But all the judges will be asked to make notes so that they can give that feedback back to the organisers so that it's clear, there's full transparency. So we kick off our Hitchin ones on the 12th of March. It's a Sunday shows. It's Sunday shows all the way through. And we have a whole host of bands. Now, before I got this list the other day, and so the first thing I did was I went, well, I'm going to look on social media. Let's find out about these bands, pull them all up. 90% of the bands were easy to find. Typed it into search engines on Facebook, came up, found them, clicked on them, no problem. Of those bands, only out of the 30-odd bands we've got, only 5 or 6 of those bands actually had any form of music or music video on their channels. So if you are looking to find out what a band is like, there's nothing on your pages for us to find out anything about you. It may have, sometimes there was bands that had descriptions saying they're metalcore or death metal. Sometimes there was nothing about them. And a lot of them just had posters about their gigs. Like, we've got a gig coming up here, but no music, no videos, nothing. I checked their video profiles. So the first thing I'm going to say to all the bands we mentioned here, some of you have done it really well. There are a few bands that did it really well, and I was able to find lots of information about you. But the bulk of the artists that we've got on here, please go sort your social media pages out, because if people are wanting to find out about whether it's worth coming to watch you, they have no idea what you sound like. And you need to put your videos, you need to put links to your tracks, you need to put a lyric video or put something on your Facebook pages, on your social pages. If you're not Facebook, then whatever social medias you use, because you've got to use your tools and help people find out who you are. Because as I said, there was
Dave, can I come in at this time? Can I just come in? Can I just come in? I disagree with you here. Sometimes there can be an element of surprise. So, for example, when I first saw the thrash metal band Must Kill, they had no social media presence. I think they had a Facebook page. There was no music, and they just took everyone by surprise because it was absolute top quality thrash metal. And I think that element of shock that we had a band that was so technically gifted, everything, vocals, drums, guitars, the musicianship was incredible. It blew us all away. So let's turn it on your head what you're saying. Imagine if you have an anonymous black metal band that want to enter this. When I say anonymous, you could be saying, why are they entering this competition?
Yeah.
The whole point is they want to keep that dark mystique. So I agree that there are some bands you're just thinking, all right, you do need to promote your music. There'll be others who are thinking, we're going to turn up on the night. We don't care about bringing people who know us. We want to try to either shock, convert, dazzle you.
Kirk,
that
just going to tell you,
as well.
Kirk, you're talking out your ass, mate. Sorry. The whole idea is if you're playing in a band, you want people to turn up and play. You want to play them. And if you turn around to the guys at Club 85 going, we didn't promote it because we want to shock, they'll be fuck off and get out of our venue, you useless twats.
No, this is a competition though. So there's a ready-made audience. It's not as if they're headlining. If you are
Hang on.
Metal band
Kirk, you've been to Club 85. There isn't a ready-made audience. It doesn't exist. There is an existing point of about 20 people on an average thing that will come to the Club 85s, plus people that the bands bring. So if any band does not promote, in this day and age, you can't play the 80s act where people go out to watch live bands. Okay, Kirk, you're one of the few people that would. But I would look, if I was going out for a night out and I was looking at a bill, I would look at the 4 bands on the bill and go, I'm going to check out those bands, see if they're anything I'm interested in. And if there's one band on there only that I like, I'll wait and see if they're on a better build, that's something more I like. I'm not going to spend money to watch 3 bands I have no interest in musically. I think
that's a fair point, Dave. Yeah, I agree with that. Especially in the current climate. I mean, I used to go to all these heats regardless, without checking out the bands. I like the surprise and the shock factor, but now I'm going to be looking at the bills, looking at their social media, and like you said, if I like at least 2 of them, I'll probably go along. If it's one out of 3 competing in the headliners, I'll probably give that night a miss.
I mean, I do agree. Like, I'd never heard of Muskill, so when we saw Muskill, it was great to see them and see that intensity. But I think any band nowadays has got to pull their finger out, and if they want people to attend gigs and they want to go and play bars and play the Portland Arms and play the 66 Bar and Club 85, what are they promoting? How are they promoting their gigs? If they're expecting people to just turn up and go, wow, there's a mystery band I've never heard of, let's check it out. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen nowadays. Bands have got to do their thing.
Let me rephrase. Let me give you the angle I was looking at. I don't think all these bands are idiots. Some of them, it will be deliberate. That's what I was trying to say. Not that, did you say 10%? They're clueless, and why aren't they doing this? I agree. There might be some who just don't know what they're doing. They're lazy, whatever it is. I was just trying to say we can't just question the motives as if they're not aware of this. There could be a band who are aware of all the things they need to do, and they're thinking, I'm in a competition, there'll be regulars there, whatever, even if there's only 20 or 30, and we can go there and be the surprise element on the night. That's what I was trying to say. I agree that if you are not even using that as a strategy and you're just useless in terms of the way you promote your band, that's why you need a manager.
I think that you can do certain elements. You can do mystery elements, but you need to be. There's got to be some awareness. But anyway, right? We digress. We digress right now. This could be a whole discussion topic for another video. Right, we're going to kick it in. I've literally done this in the order that I was sent the list. So the first band, and they're not in any particular order of like heats or anything. But first band, Parallax. They're a melodic groove metal from Hertfordshire. Either of you guys seen Parallax?
No.
They were in Heat 1, but they couldn't do Heat 1, so I think they've moved to a different heat. So I know nothing about them, but melodic groove metal would be my kind of cup of tea. So, but we've got to remember, Bloodstock, we know what Bloodstock are looking for. So when it gets to that final vote, could be a challenge. But again, keep an eye on these bands, as I call them. And when we get to the end, we're going to do our own separate predictions to see who we think. Should we do it for who's going to win it, or who do we think is going to make it to the final?
Go for the final.
Go for the 4 battles. Who do we reckon are the bands that could make it to the final? Just pick one. You don't have to pick all 4. Just pick one of the bands you reckon. Okay. Also from Hertfordshire, and I think Hertfordshire bands should, in theory, if a band from outside of Hertfordshire gets to the final, that really puts the onus on the Hertfordshire bands, because you've got the people there that should be coming to your gigs. If someone's come from Bedfordshire and they're bringing a bigger crowd, you've got some real challenges for Hertfordshire-based bands. Estranger, post-hardcore, post-rock. Estranger, anyone seen them?
Seen them a couple of times, yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Excellent musicianship. It's not my kind of thing, but I have watched them twice and enjoyed their shows, but I wouldn't sort of go out of my way to go and see them, but yeah, I think they'll do quite well.
Okay.
They're high musicianship.
I wouldn't be expecting them to do well.
What's very interesting, there's very few bands that did it last year. There's 5 or 6, I think, from last year that were in it, but a lot of the names that we remember are not there. Psychodrive from Bedfordshire, horror new metal. So we all remember Psychodrive, the pig metal face mask. With Adam on vocals. So did everyone see Psychodrive last year perform? They were in Heat 1, I think it was, of last year's one.
I recognise the name. I can't remember off the top of my head if I was at that one.
Okay. So they didn't get through their heat. The biggest challenge I think Psychodrive have is getting their stagecraft down. So it's a setup of a drummer, guitarist, vocalist. There's no second guitarist, there's no bass player. And for the gig, the vocalist and the guitarist stood next to each other. They didn't use the stage, and there was issues around. I think there was a gap last year of between one of the songs. It was 1 minute and 45 seconds between the time they finished the song and they started playing again, but with no speaking or anything. So that's the sort of stuff that I'm really hoping that since that time last year, they sorted the stagecraft out. It's kind of a little bit, they say like horror new metal. That sounds about right. New metal riffs.
Well, like Murder Dolls type band.
Kind of thing. Some of the riffs were kind of Limp Bizkit-y, Corn. So kind of fun, kind of bouncy. People enjoyed it. It's just the stagecraft let them down last year. So I'm hoping that they sort that out and see how they get on.
Can I just ask, can I come back quickly to, are they called a stranger?
A stranger, yeah.
So stagecraft with them's irrelevant. They're playing post-rock. Okay, there might be a confrontation element playing post-hardcore. So when I just said, I don't think they'll go through, I wasn't making a judgment on their music. That's art rock, isn't it? It's almost avant-garde. That is the type of band where you listen to an album, you don't care what the songs are called, and you go out for a walk and listen to 45 minutes of atonal rock music that doesn't use any pentatonic foundations, and it's got a punk element. So I'm just saying, I don't think they will go through. I would definitely give them a listen, though, based on what you're telling me.
Okay. Next band, Far From Refuge, which are a metalcore death metal band. I also have to give them props up. Their Facebook page was very good. They had links to videos. They had a clear description of what the band's about. They had almost a list of all their gigs coming up. They had lists of their music. Theirs was the best as far as their setup and consistency. So, well, big props to them for that. And I actually think they could do well. They're in the right genre, metalcore death metal. Kind of reminded me a little bit of Kadama.
Oh, okay. So
we're in that, and Sentient as well is another kind of similarity, hardcore metal element. So they could be there.
Sugar element as well.
Next band, Mudshark. I couldn't find them. Mudshark, I searched Facebook high and low, could not find anything about this band. So
punk rock, truly.
Possibly, but
back to Far From Refuge, Dave. Far From Refuge. I've seen them a few times. I think they're based in Cambridge, or certainly the Cambridgeshire area. Got loads of material out on Spotify. They're prolific. They've got a lot of good EPs, lots of artwork and merch. They're really sort of invested in the band, trying to succeed and do well.
Well, hopefully, they could be one of the ones to watch out for. As far as I said, Mudshark, have no idea what they are, who they are, what's going on. Couldn't find them on Facebook. So first thing I'd say to them is just get yourself sorted out so that people can find you, to find out a bit more about you. But I'll be intrigued then at least to find out about them, but see what they do. Next band on the list, War Torn Wings, melodic metal from Hertfordshire. Never seen them, but we know of them from obviously Owls from Scarlet Envy. Former Scarlet Envy plays the drums in them. So I've never seen. I know, Andy, you've definitely seen them, haven't you?
Yeah, they were on the slot before us at Ballstock when Nomadic Rain played. I really like them, actually. Got the EP downloaded. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing them.
Kirk, you ever seen them?
No, I'm a big fan of Alan Bryant Lowe, the former drummer of Scarlet Envy. I was really disappointed to learn that he'd left the band. So I certainly will be giving these a lot of attention. I do get on with him. I think he's a great guy, excellent musician, and I'd be surprised if I dislike his new band.
Yeah, it features Charles Bryant on guitar, who was in 13.
Oh, exactly. They're going to be good.
And I believe it's his wife, Jen, who does the vocals. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to seeing them again.
Be interesting. Yeah. Next band on the list is Extreme Death Art. Now, I've only found one listing for Extreme Death Art on Facebook. It was literally just the logo with an A in it and the word Extreme Death Art with 4 followers. Doesn't mention anything about anything else. You wouldn't have a clue it was about if there's a band, but that is the only thing I can find from a recent page. So, again, sort it out. I'm sorry, but you've got to sort it out because the thing is, Metal to the Masses will be expecting bands to be promoting. So if you haven't even got Facebook to help promote the venues are going to be putting on bar staff, sound guys, lighting guys, door guys, and so they kind of need people to come through the door because they've got to pay their salaries. And that will only happen if people actually promote the gig. So yes,
I
have no
hope that
idea.
I hope this band is a grindcore act, because with a name like that, like that 1980s post-punk and Christian Death. If you were in a record shop in the 90s and saw their album, you're like, oh, black metal. You take it home, you're like, what's this?
They should be. I think. The name says it's got to be heavy, but we'll wait and see.
Black and death metal, something like that. You are grindcore.
Next band, Hereward or Hereward, Hereward.
Is that spelled Hereward?
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah, he's a famous English insurgent against the Viking invasions. Hereward the Wake. He's known that's Richard bands.
That's
Hereward Radio. I've heard of.
Say that again.
Hereward Radio, I remember from back in the day, or local radio station.
Well, they're a Cambridge. They're Cambridge, and they're a metal band. That's all I could find.
Black metal, I reckon, with the name.
Not a lot of information on it. I can't tell you anything about them.
I'll go for black metal.
So, don't know. Next band I've got listed as The Dust. Couldn't find any information about The Dust at all. So nothing on the system, nothing on Facebook.
It's a generic name as well, isn't it?
It is.
Dave, there's a theme here. The band, I mean, I saw this list a few days ago as well that you shared with myself. The names, the bands I've never heard of, there's a reason for that, because there's not a social media presence.
It makes me think there's a lot of new bands that have maybe started up in the last year. So we're going to get a lot of very young, very new first giggers, maybe. So I'm wondering if these are going to be like people playing their first ever shows and stuff. But we never know. It could be interesting. Could be some new grassroots bands coming through. But please just sort your social media out. Jesus. How are you going to get other gigs if people can't check you out? Come on. Next on the list, Sentient, which is post-modern hardcore from Hertfordshire. A band we all know very well. You're Kirk, you're a big fan of the band, aren't you?
Yeah, I wouldn't. Did they use the term postmodern hardcore? They're not.
I don't know. I've just gone this hard. I'm throwing anything.
Groove metal gent type band, aren't they? They're the only band we have in the area that are influenced by Meshuggah.
I wouldn't say any gents in there.
Oh yeah, of course they are. Come on, they listen to Periphery and Meshuggah. I know they like the Pantera.
They listen to Periphery. They don't sound like Periphery.
Groove metal gent to me. I know people don't like that term gent, but to make it easy for our viewers,
they're a gent band that don't gent. Okay.
He's not having it. All right, we disagree on that.
Well, surely you have to gent if you're genting. Okay, next one we have is Own Your Life.
Surely.
I honestly don't know. Again, very, very difficult to find any information about them.
Andy, with a name like that, you've got to be a hardcore band, haven't they? Own Your
Life. The only thing I've got is I found a listing for it and it said post-hardcore modern metal. So I'm going to go with that. And I
think they've got a fairly decent Facebook page. I mean, I've seen them several times. I'm friends and a big fan of this band.
Who's that? Sorry.
Own Your Life.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you found it. Okay, I couldn't.
Based in St Neots. Got a really good 5-track EP out a few years ago. They've had a few sort of line-up problems, getting hold of a drummer, but that's been secured and sorted out. And I hope they do well. Whether they're sort of metal to the masses, Club 85 appeal, I don't know. They've been in the competition a couple of times before. I don't think they've got past the first heats, unfortunately. But
Andy, what age are they? From what you remember.
Say again.
What age are they, roughly? Because I'll tell you where I'm going with this.
They're not the 30s. They're not. They've been around. I'm sure they've been in bands before this particular one, but yeah.
Do they use any clean vocals in the chorus to the songs? No.
I mean, they're essentially a hardcore band with sort of metallic.
There you go. You just got to. I was going to say we would class these as metallic hardcore, which is the snobbish way of saying we don't listen to metalcore. We only like true hardcore bands that play metal. Sounds like these are a metallic hardcore band.
Yeah, I mean they are hardcore. Yeah, hardcore metal because they were supporting Vendetta, weren't they? That show that was coming up.
Yeah,
from what I can see. Yeah, so I found them now.
That's another story. We'll talk about that later if you like.
Maybe we'll get to that. Next band, Act of Vengeance, death thrash metal from Milton Keynes.
I'm gonna fucking love them if they call themselves death thrash. They're going to the final for me. If they're competent musicians, they go into the final. If I could vote, and
I mean, for me, I've never heard them, but it's a name I've seen on enough gig flyers and stuff like that. So it tells me that they've had enough time to work on their craft. So they've played enough gigs. They should give us at least a decent stage show. But I don't think they've ever. Have they played Club 85 and I've missed it?
I don't think so. I mean, I saw them tail end last year at the Horn in St Albans, supporting Black Skull Ritual. I think they played MoFest in Cambridgeshire pre-pandemic. 3-piece at the moment, or they were when I saw them. But yeah, again, looking forward to seeing them. Good band.
Would you call them extreme metal, Andy?
Not extreme. No, they're sort of thrash, traditional heavy metal. They're not particularly fast or aggressive vocals, but they're I don't know. Judas Priest elements. I think I took away from the
so they're clearly not a death thrash band then. All right, okay, I'll reserve judgment on that.
Okay.
They've misdescribed the music.
Next on the list is Burdensome from Hertfordshire. Genre thrash, and what else?
Death thrash. These are really ugly extreme metal bands, I would say. With some of those vocals, that we've heard from our man, they are really extreme, aren't they? From Declan, guitar virtuosos, the drummer's incredible. It's my favourites, but obviously I've not heard all the other bands. But we said they struggle to get a good live mix, don't they? A live sound, that's what might let them down. But on record, wow, these are fantastic.
Better on record than they are live as far as the sound goes. So, but they put on a good show, so it'll be interesting to see how far they get. Next up, we have 12-Year Horizon, which we 12-Year Horizon. You should all know, because we had their commemorative or the memorial gig in January for the guitarist. Unfortunately, so Ricky passed away last year. They did play it. The 12-Year Horizon played last year, and they were called A Nightmare Upon Us last year. So they had a name change, and they released their first album last year, or EP last year. Kind of good hard rock metal. My challenge here is it's getting the vocals right. So vocals can be really pitchy, especially live. Good on album, but again, live, got to get those vocals right. Got a lot better when I saw them in January compared to what they were last year. So they've been doing a lot more work. So it'll be interesting to see how far they get. Next up, we have Scarlet Envy, Hertfordshire-based hard rock metal. We've heard of Scarlet Envy, I think, just once or twice.
I think if we were judges, they would win the competition, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, the problem for Scarlet Envy is it's the genre type, but if they can get the crowd down, they could easily get to the final. The hard part will be the judge final. Is it a sort of band that Simon's going to want to put on Bloodstock? But there's a chance to play 3 or 4 even great shows if they can get a decent crowd that will be on their side. It's very much about the band. It's about, there are a certain crowd element that will be the extreme hard aggressive. They want the bands like Dead Flesh, which I'm surprised Dead Flesh aren't in this listing. I thought they would have probably gone for it this year after they had a good run last year, but they want bands that want that sort of style of music might go against them because there's more melody in Scarlet Envy, but every time I see them they get better and better and better, so could be a little bit of a dark horse maybe within that sort of element. We also have Silver Hex, power hard rock metal. I've seen them many times. I've seen Silver Hex over the last 12 months. What's everyone's thought on Silver Hex for this year? Andy?
I've been at shows where they've been performing, and I can't say I've given them enough time, watching their sets to really form an opinion. I think I probably listened to the first song and then sort of thought this is not for me and sort of gone outside. But I perhaps ought to give them a chance.
Yeah, Kirk, any thoughts on Silver Hex?
Yeah, good energy. They're like a cross between Guns N' Roses, Punk, and Avenged Sevenfold, aren't they?
Well, that might be the reason I walked out then.
Yeah, I like the vocalist as well. She's excellent because she really has that.
Holly.
You're expecting her to be, a mezzo soprano type vocalist who could probably do a bit of growling. She just goes straight in, almost like a punk vocalist. By the way, she can sing. Great front woman, and I like the two guitar players. They really do buzz off each other live. I think these are a top live band in terms of competency live. These are one of the best in the group.
Yeah, I mean, they've always performed very well live. The two things that I always pick out that I really wish they would work on from that could hold them back, which is the stagecraft element. So each person in the band has their own individual look, but it doesn't match as a band. So it looks like 5 people have got on stage and just started playing instruments. So you don't get that cohesive unit look, whereas some bands have really got that down. And the other thing for Silver Hex that I kind of pick out, which is they kind of all play in their own little worlds. So they're all kind of focusing on what they're doing. They're rocking out, they're moving around and everything, but they're all kind of zoning in. And Holly, she's singing, she's doing lots of moving, lots of lefts and rights. But what you don't see is lots of crowd interactions until you get to the breaks, and then you get like, "Hi, how's everyone doing?" Right, thanks. And then again, it's not talking to individuals, and that part of stagecraft is vital because then it tells you truly know how to work with an audience, even if an audience isn't like slam hitting or doing all that sort of stuff. And we've seen that last year where some bands thought they had great crowd chemistry, but didn't actually know what to do when a crowd doesn't react the way you want. So I think if Silver Hex could go far, if they can just get those bits of that interaction with the crowd better, just that connectivity of being on stage, connecting with your audience, and rather than being in their own personal little bubbles. And it's just something I've observed on every time I've watched them live. They put on a great show for themselves, but watching it is just watching 5 people on stage playing songs. I don't feel I'm watching a performance or a show given towards me. If that makes sense anyway. Next up, we have Before the Sirens, hard rock groove metal from Hertfordshire, and I'm really glad they're back in it. I didn't think they were going to do it this year. I love Before the Sirens. Love these guys. Love what they do. They are tight as fuck when they play live, and their sound is amazing. They've worked so hard in the studio to get a great sound. Is it the sound that you want at Bloodstock? I don't know if Bloodstock are ever going to go for it.
They love their breakdown riffs as well, don't they? Yeah, I think they could easily get it going. The thing is with this band, we really underappreciate vocalists that can sing, that have their own style. And these are one of those few bands, a bit like Scarlet Envy, where I think I'm surprised that these didn't go further. Did they enter it last year?
They did. They got through to quarterfinals. They got knocked out at the quarters.
Yeah, these are really an underappreciated band for me, underrated even. Good songwriters, great vocalists, and there's some real hooks in there. When I say hooks, I mean some monstrous riffing going on there. Yeah, good band.
Should be good to check out. Lowdown. I don't know anything. I know you, Andy, you've seen Lowdown, haven't you?
I have seen Lowdown a couple of times. We are supporting them in March at the Red Lion. Sort of, I don't know. It's sort of southern stoner doom. Sort of Pantera elements. Down. That sort of style band. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing them as well.
You'd expect
again, I don't know how well they'll go down in the Metal to Masses crowd and whether they're Bloodstock material, but again, top band, memorable songs, catchy riffs, something to look forward to.
Okay, next one up, we have Millstone. So kind of post-modern new wave of British heavy metal, I guess, something around that era. Obviously, Hertfordshire based again. We're big fans, I guess, of Millstone. Very unique with James on vocals. Going for that big old powerful, don't know what vocals tone it is, soprano-y kind of. He's just belting it up high all the time, and
tenor vocalist, isn't he? Yeah.
If his voice can hold out for a whole show, they have a good chance. I think there are people that would have gone further maybe last year if after 1 or 2 songs his voice didn't start cracking, because then people started making notes of that, like, ooh, wasn't quite as good as we thought when we started the song. So I wonder if his voice can hold out for a whole set. and he does that work to strengthen it, they've got a good chance.
I like this band. Traditional metal band. There are like progressive rock elements in there as well, aren't they? Does that work against you, do you think, in this competition? Unless perhaps Iron Maiden are headlining overall on the weekend. Traditional metal, I'm not too sure that goes across too well in Hitchin, Hertfordshire. We do like the more extreme side of things, don't we? But when we did have like a sludge grind band in last year, Praetorian, there were a lot of people who were like, this is just fucking nice. And I was like, this is awesome. Millstone, again, probably underappreciated, but they're a relatively new band, aren't they? So I'm looking forward to seeing them. I think they could do well.
Next band on the list is Buried on Sunday. Kind of post-modern metal, I guess, is the only thing I can kind of try and put in. There's a bit of metalcore in there and
good
some
band.
other elements.
Yeah, I enjoyed them at the last year.
And got the chorus, didn't they, Dave? I think at the least. Yeah,
the singer had to go off stage. He'd had
quarterfinals,
infection leading up to it. He's a really good vocalist, by the way. Emotional rock with metalcore elements, post grunge, metalcore, bit of prog in there. They're a good dark horse. They'll bring a crowd.
I mean, the thing is, if any band on this list brings a great show, any of them could go all the way. It's really quite open. There's a band called Drown, Cambridgeshire based, but I've got no more information than that on there. The information on their webpage, there was lots of pictures of gigs they've played, but nothing about what style of music they are. No video links, no music links, nothing for me to go and find anything out about them. There was no links to like YouTube, nothing. Just lots of pictures of gigs they've played. And I'm like, okay, don't know what you're about, but...
I mean, it could be anything, but I'm hoping with a name like that, and I'm sure there's a couple already called Drown, but Death Doom.
Maybe.
It's something quite heavy, but could be something completely different. Again, it's another one. Bands that we don't know as a three are the ones that have got no presence or information online.
Just haven't quite nailed the communicational bit about getting their message over to help people actually find them. And I've got two more left. One is called Swarmed. Now, I could only find one band called Swarmed that was even remotely looking like a rock band, metal band, and they were London-based as modern metal. But that's the only one I could find when I swiped in. I did a search on Facebook called Swarmed and Band, and literally there was a load of things called Swarm, but they weren't band related, and there was just this one. So maybe they're under something else, but that's the information I've got. Don't know anything about them, so I have to wait. And the last band is Keep This Up, which is a melodic post-hardcore from Peterborough. Seems a bit far out for a Hertfordshire metal to the masses, but you never know. They could be the dark horse. They could bring all the people down. You never know.
45 minutes on the train, not even that. Yeah, to Stevenage. Melodic post-hardcore doesn't normally go down well. I mean, in Different Engine, great band, but they've got a mathcore element with the post-hardcore, and they absolutely baffled most people, didn't they? It's just the intensity of the performance. People were like, what is this? And it got that conversation going, and it really got me into the band. I think they're up against it. If they play melodic post-hardcore, that's going to be very tough when you potentially play into, even if it's only 50 people, I guarantee 30 of those people will be Slayer fans.
So that's the band list we've got. There might be a few more bands to come. What I'm thinking is really interesting in looking at this is there isn't the level of extreme metal that we've had previously. So we had a lot more aggressive bands in previous, like last year. There was definitely a few more aggressive bands in the mix. It's a good kind of middle ground of post-hardcore, bit of thrash in there, quite a lot of hard rock metal bands. So it's quite an open field. Any one of these bands could easily get to the final. A lot of it's down to crowds. If they bring a decent crowd and put on a good show.
Big difference this year, Dave, as well. We've not really, and this is no disrespect to anybody who's sort of played at Hitchin and Stevenage and the venues around here, but there's no sort of what I call sort of local established favourites. You know,
no.
You know, the ones who have got a big following from the Club 85 crowd, who've played many times there. You know, it is a real. There's lots of familiar names there, and as we discussed, there's probably new and up and coming bands that nobody knows anything about because they haven't got social media presence. But as you say, it's going to be really tough to call.
Could be very tough. So, if you were to pick one band you think out of all these bands that's going to get to the final, which of these bands are you predicting will be in the final? I mean, you could pick 4 if you think you know 4. I think I could pick the 4 that will make the final out of this.
Okay. Well, I'm going to stick on one for now, and we'll see how the discussion goes. I think Sentient will make the final. I'd like Scarlet Envy to make the final. I'd like Own Your Life to make the final. And Before the Siren, but I'm not certain those will. But I'm pretty, if I was a betting man, I'd have a flat one Sentient reaching the final. But as for anybody else, it's wide open, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, if I was to take out the bands that the bands that I'd like to make the final, and not necessarily the ones I think will actually get to the final.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. They could bring loads of people down, but I actually think my things for the final will be Burdensome. I think Far From Refuge will do it. Sentient will do it. And Lowdown will do it. Not necessarily because I want them to. I just think that they will have the relevant crowds, or they will get over some of the other local crowds to get the votes.
See, I want Burdensome to get to the final. And Scarlet Envy. Burdensome are my big hope. They're the band. I've done the first interview with them for A.D.K channel. I reviewed one of their first gigs at Hertfordshire Corn Exchange for Screen Blast Repeat. I think that was the first time they'd appeared in print or online media as a review. They've only got 2 songs out, which are available on YouTube. One of them's a video. They definitely would be my favourites, but that doesn't mean that they'll get to the final, because I've obviously, like anyone, got different tastes. I'm finding this really difficult. I think Sentient, I agree, is probably the one where I think, because they did so well last year, and I thought they were unlucky not to get to the semi-final, they've got a good presence, good front man, really heavy. I love that down-tuned groove metal, really, really muscular music, isn't it? So I think they'll do well. What's that death thrash band, Hereward, did you say? Oh, we don't know anything about them, do we, Hereward?
Oh, we've got Acts of Vengeance for a death thrash.
Who's the one, Andy, that called themselves Death Thrash, and you said they've got Judas Priest influences?
That was Acts of Vengeance.
And who's the band after that on your list?
Burdensome.
Oh, okay.
You thought my description sort of countered their own description.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But see, the thing is, you're right, Dave. There's not much of the more extreme side. And one thing, we never get any black metal here, do we? They just, I don't know why. Death metal. There's not a death metal band in there.
It also depends on which bands get put on which heats as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you get 3 hard rock bands on and a death metal band on, the crowd's going to be primarily going to be the hard rock sort of fans. They're not going to like death metal that much, so the chances are it'll be 2 hard rock bands that will get through. Same as if you put 3 thrash bands on and then someone who's like more chilled out, the chances are it's going to be 2 death or thrash bands that will go through, because it really depends on the audience.
Yeah.
And we also know that if you invite your friends and family down to watch you, yes, they're going to vote for you, but it doesn't mean they actually like what you're playing.
Yeah.
It's just they voted for you as a friend and family.
One sentiment I make every single year. I'm not sure what the format is going to be this year, but the previous years it's been 8 heats of 4, 32 bands.
Yeah.
You take the 16 bands who progress from their heats against the 16 that don't. That is not necessarily an even split of the best 16 bands in the competition. It does all depend on who you're drawn against in your heat, the crowd as well. I mean, I've been to the heats where there's 3 bands that I really, really like and are fans of and been following and seen several times before. And you think, one of them's going to go. And you feel quite sorry for them. You feel bad for yourself. Who do you vote for? You have to kind of put an open mind and say, well, I'm basing it on tonight's performance, which is how it should be, really. But it does depend on the draw.
So, last question then. So, which band that we know from the scene that isn't here that you wish was competing that you thought would have been good to see?
Nomadic Rain. I'm being serious as
No,
well.
they're shit. I don't want to listen. I don't want to watch them.
Honestly, capable of making doom metal listenable for 90% of the metalheads who don't listen to that genre because of your singer, who's fantastic, and you've got the riffs. But okay, we'll move on from that.
Yeah, I mean, I've raised this topic on at least 3 occasions when the organisers have asked me to ask the band for us to be involved in some way, but I haven't been able to get to that. But good question, Dave. Come back to me. I'll have a little think.
Denali.
Well, they're headlining
Bloodstock, didn't they, last year?
Yeah, but they're headlining one.
Yeah,
they play. They can't do the competition. I'd have liked to seen Dead Flesh, just because I think they put on a great show. They do.
Oh, fantastic.
I'd have liked to seen them just to see if they could get any further, because obviously they semi-finals. Yeah. I think if I remember last year, so it would have been interesting. And I was really surprised they didn't put their hat in the ring to go, because if you can get to the semis, why wouldn't you? I'm kind of, in one low way, I'm kind of glad they're not, because they're such an integral part of members within the scene.
Yeah.
That they would have automatically got some votes to get through, potentially. And then there would have been, the crowd vote would have been less integral, is probably a nice way of putting it. But as we've said, any of these bands can go through. All they got to do is, here's an idea, bring some people, promote it, and actually get friends and family to come to your show. If you're going to do any gig, do that one. At least you can potentially get to it. Right, who's not said a band? You've said Nomadic. I've said, so it's you, Andy. You thought of one yet?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to have seen Planet Fatale. I mean, they've competed several times before, and as Powder Head. Probably don't think they've got. Yeah, I think they've been quite successful. I'm sure there was a semi-final appearance. Oh, the Sky got to the final one year as well, which Helen is also involved in. But are they sort of bloodstock band? I think Planet Fatale actually are. So I'm a little surprised and disappointed they're not in it this year. I can understand why.
Fair enough.
You've attempted so many times. You probably get a little bit disheartened by it all. And
Andy, what about
they're doing really well anyway.
What about the scene that really revolves around Jordan Ellard and Stevenage, the power violence grind type element, like Trading Hands? They are so extreme. I love their album from last year. I think Scream Bash Repeat, we had it as an honourable mention in our top 7 most extreme albums. So let's not forget, this London Hertfordshire scene has produced Death Goals, who are now on Prosthetic Records, featuring George from Chind, Pupil Slicer, who have re-energized mathcore in England with that album from 2021, Mirrors. So my question is, they don't get involved in the scene, do they? If you look at Jordan, Jellard and his friends, I wonder why that is.
I don't understand any band that doesn't do it. I mean, it's a 30-minute set. Yeah, they don't like the idea, you have to get a crowd down. I'm like, but that's any gig, isn't it? Surely it's, if you want to, you go, booked a gig and they've got to pay us. The venue's going to go, yeah, but you had not one person turn up to watch you. And you still want us to pay you as a band? I wouldn't book a band. If I was like, and a band goes, I've got 300 followers on Facebook. I'm like, when you have 150,000 followers on Facebook, I'll book you a gig. Because then at least if 1% of them turn up, I might be able to actually get some money back.
Yeah, but Dave, what I'm saying is, Jallard used to run the promo nights at the Red Lion last year. Yeah. And we're talking like really extreme bands. And so they've got the Stevenage crowd here centered around that power violence, grind, sludge, even doom metal scene. For whatever reason, they just don't get involved in Hitchin. Those people, you'll see them
very
all
strange.
The time. Max, Maury, Jellard. You go to one of their gigs, and I recognise faces of all these, I'll be honest, strange-looking people that go to their gigs. They are, aren't they?
Steve. I know some of them, and I don't. But you recognise the faces of the Stevenage crew, but
they could
bring. They don't often come to Club 85. I mean, Skullfuck have played there a few times. They entered it. I'm sure when I first started going and got involved in the scene. But as you say, Chin, Trading Hands, all those sort of spin-off bands that all these guys are associated with, that don't seem to play many times Club 85, and certainly don't get involved in this competition. Which is, as you said, David, it's at the very least it's a gig.
Yeah.
In front of a crowd who may have not seen you before, and you're 4 shows away from a place at Bloodstock. Give it a shot.
We need that more extreme, even metallic hardcore, power violence, grind scene in that. I think they go down well at Bloodstock. So that just.
I mean, Death Goals were in it once, I'm sure. I don't think they progressed.
Well, they couldn't now because they're now signed to Prosthetic Records. They've made it, haven't they, in terms of the next level. I know what you mean. Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's an element of bands don't play Club 85 because the turnout's not always good. And I know the last time I played there in 2014, whatever it was, that was a feedback from the bass player we had at the time, and he was like, "Oh, we played to hardly anyone." And I'm like, and now thinking back at it, I was like, yeah, we posted a few things on Facebook saying we've got a gig, but that's it. So it's not really down to the venue to kind of push it if they haven't got a crowd base. But I also do say that Facebook and places like that, I don't see enough venues pushing. So even Club 85, and we love the guys at Club 85, but I still don't see enough of them really trying to get behind bands, pushing the bands, pushing people to attend. But bands have also got to do that. And we did that whole video about this as well, about people expecting turnouts. You can't just turn up for a gig and expect that it's going to be sold out if you've done nothing to promote it. And put in a Facebook going, we've got a gig tomorrow. I mean, we've said it at the other. I think when me and Andy were talking about it, it was like you get a post in the morning saying someone's got a gig tonight. You're like, well, it's a bit bloody late now. We've got plans. We can't just change it. Where was this 2 weeks ago? Yeah. Telling me you had a gig coming up that I might have been able to do something about. That's why I'd love to see more of these bands. I'm hoping that once these bands have now got all of their heats, that they start pushing it. They start promoting and they start getting after it. They start doing promo videos. They start going on about their streams, their Spotifys. They really actively try to get it, because why wouldn't you want to play to 250 people in a club?
I don't
That's
know
what
if
they should be aiming for.
I don't know what the net result would be, whether it actually sort of does any good. But I have seen, not just fist competition, but other sort of shows and sort of mini festivals and all days, bands will make an event just for their performance. Just as another element of promotion. We will be at Heat 2, Melt to the Masses at Hitchin. Not the whole event, because there'll be an event page for the show, but just their performance. It's another link you can share, band it about, put it on your own page.
It's a better chance. I think bands need to use as many tools as they can, because otherwise what we're going to have is another venue gone. Venues can't afford to keep open if people aren't attending gigs, and bands, unfortunately, are the biggest responsibility for that. If you're a band, you put music out, you have a responsibility of getting that music to people, and for them to like you. The stage is the place for where you are there to put on that performance. It's not necessarily down to the venue to spend all their time trying to promote you. You've got to do some of that yourself. The venue should definitely promote the show that they've got a show on, but if the bands are not doing their work, I don't understand why a lot of bands just go out, they record an album and then do nothing with it. They put it out and then can't understand why they're not in the top 40 album sales. You're like, there's a reason, because you're not doing your work, mate. You ain't going to spend the money on a PR company to do the work for you. And that's a route that bands can look at, is PR, but there's cost, and bands don't want to spend money.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting discussion today. So there we go. That was our Metal to the Masses for Hitchin 2023. We'll see how close our three predictions of the final four is going to be. It'll be interesting to see. I wouldn't bet any money on it, let's put it that way, but it'll be interesting to see what we actually get. Now, if you like this video, please do like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on another video sometime very soon. Take care.